Hey my friend, today I want to show you the path to radical authenticity, breaking free from cultural conditioning and embracing true authority. You know, when we get into psychedelic space, right, getting high for the first time is like being let in on a great secret, right? It's like the veil is lifted and we see the truth. And it can be good and bad because it can come with a lot of challenges when we see through cultural conditioning, when we see through the structures that are in place in our society. And that's tough, and it keeps us stuck, kind of. You might feel like that society tells you to keep a stable job, right? To keep your head down, to live a life of conformity. And these invisible expectations that are flowing around everywhere, they keep you locked in, pulling you away from your higher calling that you might have glimpsed in some psychedelic experiences. And even though you've glimpsed a deeper truth, you kind of feel that the world keeps nudging you back into the same old patterns, right? Many people who have especially experienced psychedelic experiences feel like a victim, almost like a victim to society, to the structures that are in place, of like, whoa, I'm overwhelmed by this. I can't do anything about it, I feel stuck. Hey, and that's completely normal, and that's understandable because these structures are in place. And that's what we're gonna go into in today's video. How these structures came into being, how these structures are influencing our lives, and then how to break free, how to embrace our radical authenticity, our sovereignty, our authority, and kind of also put practical action steps in place that move us into a more aligned version of ourselves. And this is going to be tough. Like, buckle in, as this is going to be a ride, and I'm going to be challenging you. So if you're not open to being challenged, then you can just leave this video right here. But I really want to challenge you here so that you can truly break free, embrace your freedom, embody your psychedelic insights and your psychedelic vision. Okay, you ready for this? So the way it began for me was back in school. Right? I was having my first psychedelic experiences when I was in school. And that was a rude awakening, let me tell you that. I think I started smoking weed, and then this weed kind of opened me up a little bit. And I somehow got curious through listening to Terence McKenna and Ram Dass and Alan Watts about psychedelics. And I was like, I need to experience this. And so I experienced it for myself, just alone. My first couple of LSD experiences, and I was watching some YouTube videos. So, sometimes I was even like listening to talks, for example, from Terence McKenna, and I don't know, that maybe like was a form of softly brainwashing myself, but as he was then talking about society and the cultural structures and this conditioning that is in place, I had this rude awakening, and I was like, I need to break free of this. Like, I felt locked in. I felt like I was in a prison back in school, being told what to learn and what to be passionate about and not to learn more about Zen Buddhism while I was in history class, right? It's like, I felt so locked in. I felt like I was imprisoned in this system that is in place. And then going out of school, right, it goes on with expectations from family members, navigating communication with friends, navigating communication with co-workers or your boss, right? Navigating this place, your place in the world of making money, of, covering your survival needs and kind of navigating your journey as a psychedelic user in this society. And that comes with a lot of challenges. But what I found is that there is a possibility to embrace this journey, to live in alignment with your true, authentic psychedelic self, and navigate it with ease, and have fun along the way as well. And this is what we're going to go into. So, let's first, and I'll enjoy my smoothie along the way. So good. So first, let's talk about cultural conditioning. It's kind of these invisible chains that are in place, right? Cultural conditioning refers to the subconscious norms, values, and expectations that society places upon us. And there's no judgment in that. That is just the reality that is in place, right? And we come to acknowledge that. We become aware of that when we enter into psychedelic journeys more and more, and reflect on our place in the world and the influence of our culture and our environment upon our behavior. And psychedelics, they help reveal ways in which cultural conditions limit us and limit our freedom, right? And disconnect us from our authentic self. We kind of see through the layers of false identities that we present to the outside world just for our survival, Our ego, our mechanism is putting these structures in place to support us, to protect us from being hurt, right? And that's why we build up then and we project all these false identities that might serve us in the external, and they might bring us along and carry us through life. But they're not really aligned, Deep inside there's like this feeling of like, I'm not myself. And we might even like not tell ourselves that, but as we go deeper on our journey of self-actualization and self-realization, we just can't deny anymore that we are not living our true authentic self, that we're not living out our full potential, our truth, and that's painful, this disconnect from truth. Right? And a big part of this is that Western society, the society that we're living in, almost like pathologizes holotropic states of consciousness, labeling them as madness, and getting into that kind of territory. That kind of shift is happening slowly, but it's still deeply ingrained, kind of this barrier for those seeking a more spiritually aligned path through psychedelics. And there's a quote by Stanislav Grof who said, "Even more problematic are various interferences and interventions that come from the external world. In the Middle Ages, many people who had spontaneous mystical experiences risked torture, trial, execution by the Holy Inquisition. And in our time, stigmatizing psychiatric labels and drastic therapeutic measures replaced accusations of witchcraft, torture, and autos de fe. Materialistic scientism of the 20th century has ridiculed and pathologized any spiritual effort, no matter how well-founded and sophisticated. The authority and prestige that materialistic science had until recently in modern society, because of its technological achievements, made it difficult to take mysticism seriously and pursue the path of spiritual discovery." So this kind of cultural atmosphere is slowly changing. We see more and more psychedelic research coming up. We see more and more opening up to the idea that Eastern mysticism, like the kind of the mystics were right all along, right? Quantum physics is opening up to this, and this like materialistic scientism, this paradigm is breaking apart and shifting into a different paradigm. But it still lingers around. It's still in the atmosphere of our culture, and many people are not even aware that this shift is happening. Many people who are like deeply ingrained in this perspective on the world, and this kind of creates this tension in the air between this old paradigm that is almost like falling apart, but heavily judging and kind of labeling people who are more moving into this newer paradigm, and then this newer paradigm emerging where it feels like there's an open-mindedness opening up even in our scientific structures and research. So our job then is social integration, right? And a lot of our society, a lot of people who experience psychedelic experiences struggle with social integration. And that's absolutely normal. That's understandable, because our society's structures aren't designed to accommodate the expanded consciousness that psychedelics provide. Even though this cultural shift is happening a little bit, it's starting, we are far from having structures in place that support people who use psychedelics for self-actualization and self-realization. There's a couple books, there's a couple integration circles, maybe not even in your city, right? It's far too little for effective integration to really utilize and catalyze our insights from expanded states of consciousness in the most effective way. And people who have undergone psychedelic initiation often feel isolated, right? Because your newfound perspective on the world doesn't align with society's norms. And this makes your integration more difficult. So, the first step regarding breaking out of this is, for myself, is developing a radical honesty and authenticity within yourself. So being clear on who you are. And psychedelics help a great deal with this. Proper work with proper intentions, proper preparation, and also not neglecting the study of the mind, of the body, of self-actualization, right? Weaving that into your psychedelic work brings you to a place of knowing yourself, your core values, what's truly important to you, certain perspectives and beliefs on certain things. Grounding yourself in that, making the pursuit of truth an important thing in your life, and really trusting your own exploration of truth. Being open to shift your perspective, but grounding yourself in that. Gaining a certain sense and cultivating a certain sense of confidence in your ability to discern, to explore truth. Because that confidence in your authenticity, in yourself, is going to be the foundation for you to break free out of society's expectations and the cultural norms. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. There's going to be so many doubts, so many worries, so many judgments. When you're not grounded in this truly aligned, pure version of yourself, it's going to be very, very difficult. So, and also what psychedelics do is they cause people to reject the narrative of their initial cultural heritage and look for a newer, more specific form of cultural narrative that speaks to the personality of them and to their emotions. Larry and Wilson theorized that psychedelic drugs suspend cultural imprints and allow us to move more carefully and consciously choose new ones. But we gotta be wise in that process, right? And we gotta be wise in seeking out like-minded communities and support and the form of integration, and not being aware of not falling into a new form of tribal conformity. A new culture emerging, and we're gonna get into this pitfall in a little bit. But really what I want to go deeper into, because it is the foundation, is radical authenticity. The key to embodying your psychedelic insights is to be radically yourself. How can you do that? Well, radical authenticity is the courage to live in alignment with your true self, even when it goes against societal expectations. Living authentically, while it is difficult, leads to a deeper sense of fulfillment peace, alignment within yourself, and allows you to fully integrate your psychedelic insights. So the first little practice is kind of to practice being honest about your true feelings. Especially in like certain situations that are, or behaviors that are run by cultural expectations and the expectations maybe of our family, of society, is that we neglect our own feelings. We push them away. We're like, I have this true feeling, like this little like intuition coming up. My gut is telling me or is wanting to tell me something, but I push it away because I know it's like, that's not safe. That's not safe to express that here. There's no place for that here because I gotta conform, because otherwise I'm in danger. My safety is in danger. But being honest, looking at them, feeling them, being aware of these nudges, these sensations that your system is providing you with, is a good first step. And then following through on them, gradually increasing your authentic expression in larger circles. Saying no to certain invitations. Saying, like, I don't feel like working more this week. Sorry, boss. It's like, that's what my true authentic self says to me. And then doing that with full confidence, clarity, with like a certain sense of force, you know, not in a forceful, like pushy way, but it's like there's a groundedness. And I found when there is a groundedness, a certain sense of clarity and confidence in your authentic expression, it lands for other people. Like there is a certain sense of like authority you're almost developing by embodying your authentic self. And then kind of external reality bends to that a little bit. And it helps you to really like cultivate that authentic expression and that radical honesty. And then if it doesn't, if there's like a clash of perspectives or opinions and something is like, it's so overwhelming and your true feeling is like suppressed, then that's a wonderful sign that might not be aligned anymore. You know? Well, it's scary. It's a scary process, but then it means to muster up the courage to listen to that intuition, trusting life, right? And moving into the more authentic expression of yourself, even if that means maybe losing a job, even if that means cutting out a relationship. And this is easier said than done. This is where most of my coaching clients struggle with as well. And that's of course that's the case. But it's like, you gotta ask yourself, what's the cost? What's the cost of me staying in this position where I can't radically, authentically express myself? It's a great cost. You know, it does something to your sense of satisfaction, to your sense of enjoying life. And what are we here for? Then not just to enjoy life and express ourselves authentically. And there's a quote in LSD and the Mind of the Universe, Christopher Beisch. He said that truth diluted in this way is truth compromised. And what honor is there in this? Right? There is no honor in just diluting truth. If you have glimpsed truth in your psychedelic experiences, if you have had this vision opening up, if you have seen through certain cultural structures or society's expectations, and you know in your heart that truth is doing something different, and you're not following through on that, then you're losing your sense of honor. You're breaking trust with yourself. And that doesn't feel good, let me tell you, right? it doesn't feel good. There's almost like a certain sense of duty that you have from the understanding and the knowledge and the visions you have experienced. With knowledge comes a certain sense of responsibility. With that vision comes a certain sense of duty to act out that vision and live out and express that understanding in your day-to-day life. Developing a sense of honor, right? And to do that, it's important, of course it's important to do that in a very wise and careful way. Not just like screaming it out and making disturbances everywhere around you, because that's gonna lead you into very challenging situations as well. In our culture, you can try, but I have seen many people run into a lot of challenges with that approach. So my approach is kind of like, or what I can recommend you do is to do it in a conscious way, right? To express yourself authentically. And that means practicing communication. Communication skills is something you can cultivate and practice. There's a lot of beautiful books that you can study. There's practices that you can do to actively and effectively communicate your true, authentic feelings and thoughts around a situation without offending anybody. Kind of like a little bit of this non-violent communication style. Bring that into your world, right? And educate yourself. There's a lot of beautiful literature around psychedelic integration. Well, not too much, but a little bit. And there is also a lot of beautiful education about psychology, human psychology, about culture, about sociology, right? Educate yourself to deepen your understanding from that little glimpse of truth that you have had in your psychedelic experience. Deepen your understanding of the situation that you find yourself in this culture, in this society. And then with the proper base and resources of a certain sense of perspectives and knowledge and the right communication skills, it will make the authentic, the radically honest, authentic expression of yourself way easier and kind of make it way more easy for you and for your surroundings as well. Because there are certain pitfalls with this expressing yourself honestly and radically that I want to mention, and I want you to be aware of those, because it's like I myself and many others have fallen into these kind of pitfalls. One is, don't try to convince anyone of anything, right? The problem of over-idealization and grandiosity that we see in psychedelic space at times, right? There's an example of, I think it was Ralph Metzner in Allies of Awakening, who said, or who told the story of Allen Ginsberg, this writer, and he was initiated into psychedelics and had his crazy experiences, and he wanted to contact Kennedy at the time, the president of the United States, and convince him to do psychedelic journeys and to kind of go into that world, but in a very not very careful way, and not in an appropriate way of doing things. And even though, of course, we can be excited about sharing our experiences and about sharing the power of psychedelics and their wonderful healing properties, just to be aware of not putting yourself on a pedestal, not putting even the psychedelic experience on a pedestal, but really meeting each and every one and the cultural structures and the unconsciousness, or the people who are not that aware, not meeting them with judgment, but meeting them with a compassionate presence, right? So the advice Sogyal Rinpoche's master gave him to calm him down as he was observing his physical world dissolving after years of of hard hours meditation was, don't get too excited. Don't get too excited. It's neither good or bad. Holding that perspective in the bigger picture as well. You're moving into your process of awakening. You're moving into the radical, authentic expression of yourself in culture. Don't get too excited. It's neither good nor bad. It's like, just do it. It's good. It's good the way it is. So, and to deepen that confidence within yourself, to move into the radically authentic expression of yourself, is true authority. Trusting your own inner wisdom over external validation. Right? I have seen many of my coaching clients kind of put external validation on a pedestal. Right? And it speaks to this insecurity, I guess, of yourself. To say like, what am I gonna do if I don't follow through on society's expectations? How will my life look like? It will be scary, right, to break out of this. What about all the judgment of other people, right? There might be so much judgment if I don't present myself in a way where I get validated from my external environment, right? But true authority is within yourself. You are the only authority in your life. And that comes from trusting your own inner guidance rather than relying on external figures or societal validation. So psychedelics help you, right, to connect with a deeper sense of wisdom. But maintaining this authority requires resisting the pressure from outside to conform to societal expectations. So kind of like begin to trust that inner voice. Cultivate a certain sense of trust in your inner wisdom and let it guide your decisions. Wonderful way to do that is like simple meditative practices, journaling, to kind of really refine that clarity within yourself. Integration coaching is a wonderful way I've found to maintain that clarity, to really cultivate that sense of true authority and ground myself in that, strengthen that, in my own sovereignty, right? Because there is a dedication to truth within my heart that says like, I'm gonna dedicate myself to truth and kind of commit myself to honesty in my life, as it's something that's valuable to me personally, right? And it might be something that you value too, and then to come to a recognition that truth or honesty is not something that is valued in our society and in our culture. Many people don't truly value honesty or truth. And that's okay the way it is. But then to ground yourself in your core value of expressing yourself authentically, right? And being confident in moving into the tension and the conflict that might arise as you express that out into your world. Right? There's a quote by Buddha which is kind of speaking to this sense of true authority. He said, do not believe in anything simply because you have heard it. Do not believe in anything simply because it is spoken and rumored by many. Do not believe in anything simply because it is found in your religious books. Do not believe in anything merely on the authority of your teachers and elders. Do not believe in traditions because they have been handed down for many generations, but after observation and analysis, when you find that anything agrees with reason and is conducive to the good and benefit of one and all, then accept it and live up to it. So that takes courage, right? To embody what Buddha said requires the courage to let go. to shed cultural conditioning. Letting go means releasing the fear of being ostracized, misunderstood by society as you step into your authentic self. As you grow more authentic, you may lose relationships or roles that no longer align with your true self, but this shedding, this purification, this alignment is essential for living fully, for living in alignment with your insights, for your psychedelic integration. And that's tough, right? To acknowledge and accept these losses that come with authenticity. There's a cost to authenticity as well, just as there's a cost to staying in the box of society's expectations and cultural conditioning. The cost of authenticity might be that you are going to be faced with a lot of challenges. A lot of grief of losing old friends. A lot of struggle, maybe financial setbacks as you lose a position, as you let go of a position that is no longer serving you, and you try to find your own way, making money, doing what you love. That's challenging. And I found that what holds many people back is the resistance to move into that challenge. Because it seems like the cost of staying in the box, of following through on society's expectations and cultural conditioning is more comfortable than the cost of actually radically, authentically expressing yourself, following that inner call. And that's okay. But if you're here and if you're still watching, you might feel that something inside of yourself is telling you, like, I really want to align myself. I really want to truly integrate my psychedelic experiences, my psychedelic space, the truth that I've glimpsed. And it means to actually move into that, means to let go of a lot of things. Right? To let that alignment happen means also that the road is not going to be easy, right? Especially not because it's like you're one out of very few people who do that, who follow through on that. And of course, it's going to be challenging to navigate all of this because there's like almost like a tyranny of consensus reality. When we break free of collective norms, right? Consensus reality is the shared belief system that decides what is normal in our society, right? And psychedelics challenge consensus reality, offering a glimpse of deeper truth. And however, breaking free of these shared norms often leads to isolation unless we find others on a similar path. And it requires this certain sense of inner strength, inner trust in yourself, in your path, right? And you gotta be okay with just like breaking out of consensus reality. You gotta be okay with saying like, okay, hey, many people might tell me that I'm wrong. And it's good, I'll take that into consideration and reflect upon it. And be open-minded to certain different perspectives and beliefs. But I am going to trust my own inner wisdom. And if that means I am in the 1% of people who believe this, and 99% of people believe something to be different, then so be it. So be it, right? Take steps to strengthen your confidence in your own unique perspective on the world. As I said, be open, be flexible about it. Open-mindedness, lightheartedness, compassion towards the consensus reality But yeah, don't get sucked into this just because you're afraid to express your unique perspective. Because you're doubting yourself because of this, like, oh, everybody says something is right, so I might think that this is right as well. No, be bold enough, be courageous enough to have your own unique view, your own unique perspective on the world. Because why not? That's the process of integration. So now we're moving into things that can help with this process of integration, with this aligning yourself with your sovereignty, cultivating your authority, radically expressing your authentic self. And the first thing is community. The importance of community. It's such a basic one. Building support for authentic living. Someone was asking Timothy Leary, what do you do after you turn on? And he said, find the others, right? Find the others. There's a natural desire coming up after you've had a psychedelic experience to share. You want to share your wisdom. You want to share your insights. You want to share your experience. You want to bounce ideas off. It's like it's a natural tendency to share yourself, your authentic experience. And that is kind of like being blocked, being cut off from society, from culture, because there's not a structure in place. There's not a space for that sharing to happen. So a supportive community is crucial for navigating the challenges of living authentically, right? And integrating your psychedelic insights. As integration is not just an individual process of strengthening your sovereignty and authenticity. Yes, it is, but it's also a social one. It's a social process. Without community support, isolation can lead to a difficulty of maintaining authenticity. When you're stuck in your own little world, isolated, it's not the way, right? So find a community or build a community or find a way to express and share yourself with like-minded people where you can openly share your experiences, talk about your insights, gain a little bit of compassionate presence, right? So integration circles, retreats, supportive friends can make a significant difference. And don't shy away from proactively pursuing that. Proactively pursuing to seek out community. If that means taking a little bit of money and going to travel a little bit. Travel to a psychedelic conference. Sign up for an online meeting, right? Schedule a call with me to have a chat about integration coaching. A coach can be a great support on your side to have a little bit of that connection, to hold you accountable, to reflect back your own perspectives. That can deeply strengthen your authenticity, deeply strengthen this alignment, this authority, this confidence. And even in your city, like, don't be afraid to go out and talk to people, right? And we're gonna come to that, like in the last step of making this integration real, expressing your authentic psychedelic space in culture as well. Because there's a certain sense of pitfalls as well when we go and seek out our people, right? Our people. There's a certain sense of tribalism that is emerging. But first step is do that. Go out there. Go to the festivals. Go to the meetups. Develop, cultivate relationships with people who are vibing with you. It's important. It's crucial. It's a crucial one. Because when you fall into isolation, it's like it brings about so many more challenges to navigate this breaking free, this awakening. and you can kind of fall into your own little solipsistic bubble, right? There is a testimony from the Senate of Subcommittee Hearing 1966, whatever. They said those who use LSD frequently or chronically almost inevitably withdraw from society into a solipsistic, negativistic existence. These individuals colorfully described their conferences as acid heads, engaged perpetually in drug-induced orgies of introspection, and are no longer constructive and active members of society. That's a funny testimony, but right, it's like, yeah, we're gonna be aware of our isolation and also of the tribalism that is happening, because that's kind of the pitfall which I want to go into next, which is when you go out and you seek community support. Beautiful, do that. Have this support structure in place, but I want to talk about tribalism with this true freedom, avoiding the pitfalls of subcultures, because psychedelic movements often create tribal subcultures, right, where identity is shaped more by a group conformity than true individual freedom. So there's almost like a reflexive return to tribalism in every psychedelic movement. In the 60s, the hippies, the rave culture, neo-shamanism, new age kind of psychedelic new age movements, there's a certain sense of group identities forming. And while these groups kind of value individuality, this bubble in and of itself has almost like a rigid structure with rules and norms which you gotta conform to be part of that subculture, right? But true freedom is about transcending all external expectations, not just shifting from one set of cultural norms into another. Don't get me wrong, it's good to shift from one set of cultural norms into another which might be more aligned. To move from one that is not aligned to one that is aligned is a good step, right? But recognize and reflect on how these subcultures can impose new forms of conditioning. Question whether your choices are truly authentic or driven by a certain sense of group identity, right? There's almost like a desire coming up to, when we become aware of cultural conditioning, societies, norms, to neglect your own heritage, to neglect your culture. Move into a new subculture, maybe even leave the continent, move to a certain different tribe, an ayahuasca tribe in the jungle, and say like, this is my new home now. But you realize that even there's a culture in place. You're not escaping culture. Well, you can choose to, but it's like for most people, you're still living in culture, and then just substituting one culture for another one brings about the next set of challenges from that other culture, because no culture is a perfect one. There's dynamics and challenges and norms and dynamics playing out in each and every culture. Even in those subcultures, in these bubbles, in these movements, right? So even though I can recommend, and it helped me a great deal to move from societies and cultural conditioning which was not aligned to a certain sense of subcultures, and spend my time there because there's a higher chance of meeting people with which I can develop deep, meaningful relationships, still being aware of not being overly identified with that movement, with that subculture that is then kind of neglecting everything else, almost having like your little pocket utopia in your little hippie gatherings, you know, saying like, this is my happy little bubble world now, and this is where I belong, and this is wrong, this is not good, right? I don't know if that's the way. Because why not find a holistic one, and also not forget this deeper sense of freedom that is behind all of these dynamics of different cultures that are playing out, without overly attaching or identifying with any one of them, but really just trusting in this foundation of your true authentic self, this foundation of your true authority, your own freedom, your own sovereignty. So integration is making your psychedelic insights practical, right? Integration is the process of bringing the insights gained from your psychedelic experiences into your daily life. And true integration involves living in alignment with your newfound truth, but also adapting in a way that allows you to function within society. So don't judge or retreat from consensus reality. It's a big trap, right? Unless you choose to. There's a freedom of choice to retreat back and judge consensus reality, your culture, your society, the structure that you're living in. But I found that very, 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 very few people, that's truly aligned, right? You got to be really honest within yourself and say, is this a way to escape? Do I want to just escape this uncomfortable situation? To have my peace in isolation? Because I'm afraid to deal with all the challenges that come with adapting in this structure? Or is it truly aligned for me to retreat back? Right? So, but really like being in culture, being in society, but here, being free and authentically expressing yourself in that structure. That's where the fun begins. That's where you can develop a certain sense of playfulness, right? Little practical habits can help you with this. Like meditation, journaling, mindful conversations that allow you to kind of keep that sense of alignment alive with your psychedelic insights on a day-to-day basis, grounding yourself, remembering, doing the practices. But then really like integrating the sense of true freedom, which is found beyond any single culture or subculture. Kind of like really just embodying your deepest truth, free from all external labels. Because psychedelics offer a chance not to only transcend the cultural narratives of Western society, but also the alternative narratives of subcultures. True freedom is not found in any external label, but within yourself. And when you cultivate that sense of freedom within yourself, there's basically nothing stopping you to do what you want. You can just connect with your authentic desires and do what you want. You can do what you want. And I believe in you that you're a good person, because it's like, well, whatever. You can do whatever you want, but I believe that you're a good person inside in your heart, and that you're aware and loving, and you want to spread out that love into the world, right? And to do that, just like in your own way, in whatever way that looks like, you're free to do that. And there's really, I gotta say, like, there's really no need to be afraid of the judgments of other people, of the expectations of society, which you're not following through on. There's no real bad consequences if you keep your confidence in yourself. If you keep that flame of honesty, if you keep that flame of radical authenticity alive within you, you know that everything you do is aligned. You know that every expression, every behavior, every action is aligned with what you truly want, with who you truly are. aligned with the truth you have glimpsed. And there's just like a radiant fulfillment arising out of this, right? No external source has a monopoly on truth. It's like trusting your own personal journey, trusting your own personal perspective as the ultimate guide. Being radically honest and authentic to yourself, to others, expressing that out into the world. That's, I found, is the greatest service you can do to humanity. It's the greatest service you can do to culture itself. Because you break open minds by that. To really skillfully navigate that challenge of culture, you are doing a service to the psychedelics, to truth, to love, to God. And even though you might be seen as a little bit crazy, some people, they have open ears. And they say like, wow, you're going to be like a light of inspiration for others. You're going to be like in a position of service almost. Like, I have found that radically expressing myself, being true to myself, being who I truly am, following through on what I truly want to do and how I want to express myself in each and every situation, in these cultural norms that are in place, is the greatest service to life that I can do. And it takes up courage. It's challenging at times, but it's so much fun. There's like the reward. The cost might be there, but the reward is like, it's infinite. I found that alignment is just like this infinite reward of peace, fulfillment, love, radiance, like whatever it is. It's like, it's freedom. It's freedom. You want to be free, right? Free and breaking free of cultural expectations, the consensus reality, society's norms. That's the way. Through radically, honestly, authentically expressing yourself in a skillful navigation, to really trust that, and then trust life to provide you with what you need to keep on going. Because I found there's a great magic that is emerging as well when you trust that path. So that's about it. There's a free guide regarding 5 more steps to truly integrate your psychedelics experiences in your day-to-day life. You can download it for free. Link is in the video description down below. If you want to work with me one-on-one, you can book a call and we can have a chat about integration coaching. Thank you very much, and I love you all. You've got this. I believe in you. Hey, it might be a hard challenge, a harsh situation that you find yourself in with all this cultural environment, but you've got this. I know, and you know as well in your heart that you've got that flame burning, that perception of truth that you've glimpsed. You can integrate this and you can align yourself with that authentic version of yourself. It's the greatest gift. It's the greatest blessing. Much love.